Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, it's finally part 2 of my 500 sub Q&A video, and that's what I want to talk about on today's episode. So roll that intro. So if you watched my last video, you know that I've finally reached 500 subs on my YouTube channel. And I figured I'd do a Q&A to celebrate the occasion. I love hearing questions and I love giving the answers. I figured I'd throw that out there and you guys took the ball and ran with it. So many questions, in fact, I had to make a part 2, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I got about 10 more questions that I'm going to go through on this video, so strap in and let's do this thing. The first question I got was from a subscriber, Big Game Al, and he says, my question is, if you ever come to the UK, what city would you stay in and why? Well, I've never been to the UK, and if I did go over there, I'd probably just go to London. I know that's a pretty basic answer, but there's tons of, monuments and things there that are just, iconic, and I see in movies and on documentaries. So I'd love to go there and actually see them in person. It would just be a very cool experience. I've never been out of the country ever, so it would be definitely something that I wasn't used to, but I'd be up for it. So I would definitely go to London. The next question I got is from my buddy Ryan, and he says, keep up the good work, bro. What's your favorite black box NES game? So this was a tough question. I kind of had to really think about it because there's a lot of black box games I really like. But if I had to pick one, it's probably going to be the original Super Mario Brothers. But since so many people got that in the combo cart with Duck Hunt, I guess it don't really count, but it does because it's a black box game also. But if you don't count Super Mario Brothers, it would have to be easily Excite Bike. I just remember playing this game non-stop when I was younger. Creating your own tracks, I would sit there for hours just making nothing but ramps. And then I'd finish it and I'd just ramp and ramp and ramp, But as I got a little bit older, I was making pretty complicated tracks on that game. The only bad thing is you couldn't save them. I wish you could have saved them, and then your friends come over and you turn the NES back on and you guys could actually race on the tracks that you created. That would have been phenomenal, but it was a cool feature, even if it was only for the time that you had the NES powered on. So definitely Excite Bike. Thanks for the question, man. So the next question comes from a subscriber to the channel, but I can't really pronounce their name correctly, so I don't want to disrespect it. But they do have a profile picture from Final Fantasy III, so that's kick-ass in my book. But they ask, what's the best moment that you can pin down that made you a lifelong gamer? An example, for many of us, getting an NES for Christmas was that moment. To be honest, the NES was huge for me, but I think everybody had an NES back then. It felt like that to me anyway. It felt like everybody had a Nintendo. They sold a ton of Nintendos, but when people started getting the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, it was a game changer. And I was lucky enough to play both consoles because my uncle was lucky enough to have both consoles. There was no console war because we loved both systems. So I think that's the moment that I really felt like I was a gamer, because I had the best of both worlds. I could play exclusive on each system and it wouldn't be a big deal at all because we was actually able to do it. So I think that moment was the moment I knew that I was a gamer. My whole world revolved around video games. I loved playing them. I loved talking about them. I loved watching people play them. I loved going through, magazines trying to get all the coolest codes and the tips and the tricks. So I think when the Super Nintendo came out, it changed the game and it totally made me a 100% gamer. I was just so into video games when the Super Nintendo came out. And it came out of the gate hot, son. They had some unbelievable launch titles for that system. Plus, the first year that the console was out, they dropped a ton of bangers also. And I'm going to get into that in a separate video. But I think the moment that my uncle got his Super Nintendo was definitely the moment that made me a real gamer. Thanks for the question. And another subscriber to the channel asked me a question that I think I may have answered in the last video, but I'll go ahead and answer it again. What's the rarest game you have for each system? Well, see, here's the thing. I do have a lot of rare games, but they're mostly for the NES. So if I had to pick one, it would probably be, all the heavy hitters for the NES. Samson, Flintstones, Power Blade 2, Panic Restaurant, things like that. But the other systems, I don't really go for rare games on those systems. So things like the Super Nintendo, I don't really have any incredibly rare games. If I had just had to go off of value only or rarity, I guess it would be Mega Man X3. For the Super Nintendo, I only collect things I actually played as a kid for the Super Nintendo. And they all are complete in box. So I guess if you go by that, there might be a couple rare ones, because some of the boxes and some of the manuals might be more rare than the actual cartridge is. But as for value, no, I don't have any incredibly rare like Super Nintendo games. Thanks for the question. And my buddy Back in the Day Gamer asked me, tell us some cool facts about your NES collection. Maybe it would count, your favorite 3 games, the most expensive game, best find, etc., etc. If I was gonna say my favorite 3 games for the system, man, that's tough because they kind of rotate depending on my mood. But obviously, without a doubt, my favorite game for the NES is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. By far, my favorite game. Nobody's ever taken over that #1 spot for that. Star Tropics, definitely up there. Incredible game. I think it's underrated, but a lot of people would say, everybody knows about Star Tropic. But I think it's a fantastic game, and a lot of people really didn't give it a chance, I don't think, back then. Also, you gotta show respect to The Legend of Zelda. One of the most inspirational and just iconic games for the NES. Something like that was not even thought of back then. Playing a game that had a huge overworld map you could actually get lost in, I was used to running from left to right. So when I played these type of games and things like Legend of Zelda, it just totally blew my little mind. And that's a lot of the reason these kids got stuck on these games and needed Nintendo Power. Metroid, think about that. You're not beating Metroid when you're a kid. If you beat Metroid when you were a kid, you're an absolute savage. Like, you're a Nintendo game counselor. I'm serious. Like, if you didn't cheat and you just played that game straight through, you're a stud. I mean, that game is incredibly tough. Even if you know where to go, that game is tough. Same thing with Zelda. I think it's a tough game. If you just sit a kid down now and they try it, I bet they wouldn't get very far. You needed Nintendo Power. You needed your buddies at school giving you the tips. You needed all that. So definitely those 3 games. As for my best find for the NES, that's a pretty easy one also. I actually found my copy of Little Samson at a swap meet for $7. Now, to be fair, at the time, the game was worth about $100. So it was already an incredible deal, and I caught him slipping like hell on it. But a weird fact is I've actually ran across 2 other Samsons over the years that I've been collecting. One I actually found at a game store for $117. And at the time, it was worth about $300. So I picked that up also. And I actually had a coworker that I worked with, and he said, hey, I collect NES games. Well, my girlfriend did, but she gave them to me, and I said, hey, take a couple pictures. Well, he brings in these pictures on his phone. I see a Little Samson sitting in there with the fucking manual. I was just like, no way, that's real. And he's like, oh yeah, I've had that for years. I looked it up, and it's kind of pricey. So I definitely had to make a deal and get that Little Samson from him. We did a huge trade for cash plus trade. So it was fantastic. I picked it up, and I actually took that copy and traded it for 3 heavy hitters that I needed for the NES at the time. And that knocked out 3 huge games that I needed. Bonk's Adventure, Power Blade 2, and Panic Restaurant. So I knocked those 3 off the list by using that Samson as collateral. So it was fantastic find, and thanks to Jason, the guy at work who actually gave it to me, because, well, he didn't give it to me, but who helped me acquire it. So that's probably the best find that I have for the NES. And my buddy Feral Inferno asked me, out of all the Robot Masters in the classic Mega Man series, who do you think had the coolest design, the worst design, and which one gave you the most trouble to defeat? Well, this is a three-part question. Obviously, the best design, in my opinion, is easily Metal Man. I don't know, it's just a fantastic sub-weapon when you do get it. And I just liked Metal Man. I liked his look. I liked the way that they made him. So definitely Metal Man is one of the coolest. One of the lamest, let's be honest here. Woodman from Mega Man 2. Woodman. He is an actual piece of wood. I don't know, that's incredibly lame. But whatever. But yes, definitely Woodman would be the lamest. And which Mega Man boss gave me the most trouble to defeat? I'm just going to keep it simple and keep it real. 100% Iceman from the original Mega Man. I mean, tell me a game where when you're on an actual sheet of ice, there's tons of games that have you running around on sheets of ice. Nothing's easy in general when you're trying to beat a level that's made of ice. I mean, anything like that. Imagine finding a boss in Mega Man on a sheet of ice. I mean, think about that. The dude is incredibly hard, one of the hardest bosses. So it would definitely be Iceman from Mega Man 1. So I got another question from Angel, and they ask, what is your favorite Castlevania game instead of Castlevania 4? That's pretty easy. Obviously, without a doubt, my favorite, personally, is Castlevania 3 for the NES. The game is fantastic. 3 playable characters. They all have different skill sets. I don't know. It's so good. They took the NES game and just put it on steroids and just made it so good. They maxed the NES out when they made Castlevania 3. That game is just an absolute masterpiece when you think of what console it's on. I mean, they literally pumped out squeezed out, I mean, it's like getting blood from a turnip. They squeezed out every ounce of power that the NES had to run that game. It was an incredible game. So it's definitely Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Okay, I know I look nuts and I'm in a different shirt, but I had to edit this in because I forgot this question. And when I was going back editing everything, I wanted to actually answer it. So let's get into the question. Spinkler McBride asks, what were some games aimed at children that you found unnecessarily difficult? Any consoles? Lion King on the Super Nintendo for me. Well, yeah, Lion King is definitely a very, very hard game. But I got a couple here that I'm going to show that I think are extremely difficult also. And I just don't understand how they expected kids to beat these way back in the day. So the first one I'm going to talk about is one that actually came out for the Wii U, and it's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Now, you're just saying, oh, this is a Wii U game. It can't be that hard. It's a Donkey Kong game. I'm going to tell you right now, this game make you pull your hair out. Without a doubt. There's some platforming in this game that you got to be absolutely pinpoint accurate. So, definitely, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is a very tough game, geared towards children. Another one, without a doubt, Super Mario Kart. And you're probably like, Super Mario Kart? Well, that game's easy. You ever play this bitch on 150cc? These dudes do not make mistakes. I mean, you gotta hit every turn perfect. I mean, you gotta literally play this game in time trial mode and pretty much cheat to win on 150cc. This game is extremely difficult on single player 150cc. So, if you think you're a badass, check it out sometime. This is an obvious one. Battletoads for the NES. Geared towards children. Come on, man. One of the hardest games for the Nintendo, obviously. Battletoads, what do you say? It's extremely hard. So, that's another one. And one more, obviously, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, specifically geared towards children because they were huge Ninja Turtle fans, right? So you get this game, and you get home, and you're playing it, and then you get to the dam, and it's like, well, I guess I'll just be stuck here for the next 17 years until I get internet and figure out how the fuck to beat it. So, yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of the hardest games I'd ever played when I was a kid. I didn't know what the fuck to do, and I just don't understand why they made it so damn difficult. But anyways, thanks for the question. I had to throw that in. And one last question for my friends that I recently met at Southeast Game Exchange a couple weeks back. Do You Nerd? By the way, check their channel out. It's fantastic. Tell them I sent you over. But anyways, let's get to the question. What is something you've learned 100% from doing YouTube that you feel has carried over into your everyday life? Wow, that's a tough question. There's so much that I've learned since doing YouTube. But one thing I really learned is the amount of respect that I have for content creators in general. Before I made my channel, I'm going to be honest, I felt like when people said, hey, YouTube is a job for me, or YouTube is a living for me, or YouTube takes a lot of my time, it takes time to do all this stuff, I always felt like they were kind of exaggerating, right? I didn't know how much work goes into just making a channel. And I'm not talking a channel that has 1 million subscribers or 100,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. I'm talking about channels that are my size. You wouldn't believe how much time I spend editing these videos. And yes, I'm not very good at it for one, so it does take me longer. But I could not imagine having a YouTube channel that had thousands of subscribers and videos that I had to constantly put out to get views and to make a living off of this. So, I mean, the respect that I have learned and the respect that I have for these people who edit incredibly well, still make content on a regular basis, or just make content at all. You know, YouTube is a free service. You don't have to give anybody anything to watch any video. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to hit a thumbs up. You know, how many times do you get on YouTube looking for an answer to something about your car maybe, or gardening, or any kind of question you got, and somebody has a video on it? How many times do you hit that thumbs up button for them? You know, I was recently on there looking for something that had to do with my truck, and there's a couple times that I noticed myself just watching the video. You know what? I'm going to subscribe to that because he helped me out. I'm going to hit that thumbs up because I know it helps him. So definitely the respect factor that I have for all these people who really put so much time and effort into YouTube. And it's such a hard thing to do. I thought it was somewhat easy, and I thought that anybody could probably do this. And I'm pretty much anybody, so I think people can do it if I can do it. But imagine doing this for a living. Imagine putting so much effort and so much time into this. So that's definitely what that I use in my everyday life. The respect that I have for these channels that put so much work into their videos, you know, and I use that every day. I think about, man, you know, I really don't want to make a video today, or I'm tired. Like, just think, I'm at a level that I can do that. Some of these channels, they have to continuously make content. And the amount of respect I have for that amount of hustle that they are doing is, I'm all for it. So definitely I use that in my everyday life. You know, the respect that I have for these people, it's incredible. So thanks for the question, and I hope that answered your question. Well, thanks for the question, and I hope it answered your question, if that makes any sense. Well, I guess that's pretty much all the questions that I got. I want to thank everybody who submitted a question, and everybody who watches my channel, subscribes, hits a thumbs up or a thumbs down, just anything in general that has to do with my channel. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about me and learned little bit more about my channel. So if you guys have any more questions, make sure to put them in the comment section below. I read every comment, so definitely leave your opinions down there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Or don't. You can throw a thumbs down or a thumbs up. I don't care. I'm just glad you're watching my channel. And until next time, keep on reminiscing, baby.
Like I said, I'm not 100, I'm not Andrew, you are not the father.
Ready for action, nip it in the bud, we never relaxing. Outcast is everlasting, not clashing.